afternoon, everybody. Welcome to the show. This is the show that's not about baking, not about cooking, not about hunting, not about fishing, not about politics. It's just parlays. There you go. I'm your host, Scott Steen. I'm the lead handicapper at winnersandwiners.com. I'm joined by, two guys, actually. We're passing the baton, and Jim's having a hard time letting it go. It's Jim Williams, your host with the most before yesterday. Jimmy, what's up? How are you?
I'm fine, thank you. I'm just here today to introduce one of my best buddies.
Oh, well, here he comes now. It's Chris King, everybody.
Right.
No, I'm Mr. Fuji.
Are you ever going to run out of obscure wrestling people to introduce yourself as?
No, I haven't even gotten to the Grand Wizard yet.
We'd probably prefer you not be the Grand Wizard, Chris.
And I know Rock knows who Mr. Fuji is. I can see him smiling already.
Very good. Well, let's bring him aboard. Jim, I'll let you do the honors. This will be my first time working with the one and only Rock Riley, but let's bring him on and you can give him a proper intro.
Of course. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, the man, the legend, Rock Riley, he's covered many drafts, and this is a guy who knows about just every sport you could imagine. Plus, of course, Chris is always on him for his wrestling expertise, which is amazing. But Rock, you were at the what was it, the NFL Combine?
Yes, it was at the NFL Combine.
A lot of these guys already.
NFL Combine, and then I was also at the NFL owners meetings in Palm Beach. So with owners, GMs, scouts, coaches, and a lot of these prospects.
Okay, well, I'm going to let Rock chat with you guys. I'll sit back and watch. So take care. And Rock, thanks so much for coming.
Oh, my pleasure.
Yeah, good to have you here.
Let's start it off with an easy one, Rock, unless Scott's going to jump in on me. Start with an easy one, Rock.
I was just going to say it's nice to have him and introduce myself.
Well, of course it is, but, I'm familiar with Rock and you're not.
Okay, go ahead. Run the show, Chris. Do it, baby.
Let's make it fun, Rock. To quote the living legend Larry Zbyszko in the game of human chess, which match was better? Was it Randy Savage, Ricky Steamboat at WrestleMania 3, or was it Ric Flair and Ricky Steamboat at the Chi-Town Rumble in 1989?
You could go either way. I mean, Flair to this day still says Ricky Steamboat was his favorite match. And unfortunately, the Macho Man is not around to tell us. So I'll go with the Nature Boy, who, by the way, he lives here in Tampa now. I don't know if you know that.
Yeah, I know. I saw some of the clips where you were at Hogan's birthday party or whatever it was with Flair. So it was interesting times. Jim's told us some good stories about Flair as well, with the late Dusty Rhodes, of course. But what can you tell us? What are you hearing about some of these guys in the draft? Are you still hearing Trayvon Walker over Aiden Hutchinson at number one?
You know what? Again, I hate to be on the fence. It's a toss-up. I'm hearing so much that when you're at this point now, you don't know what to believe. I can tell you this, that I know since I cover the Bucks, I'm over there an awful lot. General Manager Jason Light did his pre-draft press conference. A lot of these general managers do that. Now, they're not going to give anything away. And I remember there was one media member that said, Jason, I know this is a year where it's not really a lot of top quarterback prospects. So in that case, and you know what Jason Light said? He goes, so have you talked to any other general managers in the NFL? He's like, no. So you're getting that from the media. Okay, I beg to differ. So, I mean, a lot of it is media driven, but once you get to that opening first round, there's always a few surprises. And I honestly think that there are, because everybody is looking for that next quarterback, that you're going to see more quarterbacks go early than would be originally thought if you're only going on media reports.
Everybody's got a plan until they get punched in the mouth, right, Rock?
That's a good one. Yeah, no doubt. No doubt.
So Chris and I were talking a little bit before the show. I don't remember ever seeing a draft like this where there's so much controversy or indecision at literally almost every position on the board. We don't know who the top quarterback is. We don't know who the top edge rusher is. We don't know who the top tackle is. And now there's even heat coming as far as cornerback goes. Everybody thought it was going to easily be Sauce Gardner, and now there's some late heat around Stingley. So what are you hearing about cornerback? Anything there?
Those names that you brought up, I think they're going to be good ones. I think what we're seeing now is the level of play in college has gotten so much better that these kids, these first rounders, even second rounders, third rounders, I went back just like 3-4 years ago and seeing guys that are studs in all positions 3 years later, and they're second and third round picks. It used to be like that. SEC, Big Ten, even some of these other schools, it all starts early. The training that these kids are getting on the high school level, at the speed positions, the wide receivers, even DBs, all these 7-on-7 tournaments. A lot of these kids in the past that used to play 2 sports, they only concentrate and train year round. So I think that's the biggest difference, that once they get as a rookie in the NFL, they make an immediate impact. And then when you bring that to the draft, so many of these kids are just so talented. And we all know NFL is not for long. It's a young man's game. And so therein lies, there's no slam dunk. Everybody is pretty good. Everybody on this first round that I'm looking should really make a real good impact. And that includes DBs as well. I think the position on the defensive line, when you come into the NFL, I think that is very hard. And I also, basically the trenches, offensive line, because what coaches have told me is these kids, even these studs on the offensive line, their protection is different than what they're going to see. Everything is no huddle. Sometimes they're not even down. You know what I mean? They're always pass blocking. So that's basically the trenches is where you may see it take a little bit of time for these kids coming out of college to make the impact in the NFL.
Rock, let me ask you this: with the success of Patrick Mahomes coming out of a system or a junk offense, basically there at Texas Tech, has that given a little more credence to guys like Malik Willis or Bailey Zappi that come out of quote unquote junk offenses, non-NFL offenses that they played in college? Does it give them a little more credibility and get them ultimately taken higher in the draft than they would have, say, 5 years ago?
Exactly. You hit that on the head, Scott. Willis is a perfect example. He had to transfer, and now we're talking about him being the number 1 pick. Now, I was thinking about this. Quarterbacks. All right, I was like, you know what? Joe Burrow at Ohio State couldn't beat out the starter. He had to transfer, but he did go to LSU, and he did win a national championship, unlike Malik Willis being at Liberty. So he's got all the intangibles. You know, Willis has got the strong arm, and you know they really study that in the combines and workouts and things like that. They project. I remember when Herbert came out, he wasn't a slam dunk. Look at what he did early. So yes, you're right. With the Patrick Mahomes, I think you hit it right on the head.
All right, I got one more question, and I'm going to turn it over to Chris because I know he's probably got a lot too. In these days of shotgun or pistol offenses and ultra quick releases where everybody's getting rid of the ball in under 2 seconds, basically, does edge rusher take on a little bit less important, and it's more important to be able to stock the middle with nose tackles, with tackles, and be able to get that up the middle push? Because if you talk to quarterbacks, they don't mind moving one way or the other. They don't like when you can't move up in the pocket. Do you find that to be the case as well?
I somewhat do, although no talking to, and like I say, I'm just coming from One Buck Place where I get a chance to talk to those coaches. They still put a big emphasis on edge rushers. The Bucks last year went with Joe Tryon Shoyinka. Really wasn't a really strong tackler, but was so fast from the edge. And you can't teach that speed. If a kid has got that, the burst, he's so athletic. I think it's both. I think, yes, you need the push up front. Yes, you do. And yes, the quarterbacks are getting rid of it faster, but I still think edge rusher to get that pressure, even if they can't get to the quarterback's getting rid of it quick, they still know that it's coming. You know what I mean? So I think edge rushers are still very, very important, Scott.
these defensive linemen running these 40 times that are 4'5", 4'6", 340 pounds. Let me tell you something. I'm 3 bills. If I'm running a 40-yard dash, I'm packing a lunch. That's the way that works. Hey, Chris, what do you got for Rock, buddy?
Well, Rock, what are we hearing about Kyle Hamilton? Everybody talks about he's the number 1 safety. We've heard that he could fall somewhere in the top 5. Now it sounds like he's sliding backwards. Where do you see the ceiling for him in this draft?
I still think the ceiling is high. I try not to go too much on. I try to go on what the kid did on the field in college. And a lot of times you get to this 2-week period where they start breaking it down. Everybody that's putting these mock drafts wants to be the one to say, oh, I told you, see, you guys all thought that he was going to be a first rounder. So you know what I mean? You go by what the kid did on college. You can't simulate, game action. So, I mean, it's funny. I was just reading a thing about Laramie Tunsil. Now, this is a whole different story. If you remember, he had the gas mask and all that, and then he fell. And, okay, that was that incident. It was right before the draft that day, and they put it up there on the screen. Oh, my God, he's smoking out of a gas mask. But in the end, he's still a good player. And look at what he has done. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
so,
now he made an NFT out of that.
Exactly. I just was reading that. Yeah.
Donating the money to cannabis justice. That's exactly. I'm not making that up. I think I read the same story you guys, and that's exactly where the money from he sells the NFT from. That's where the money is going. He's donating it all to justice for people that are in jail for simple possession of cannabis. So full circle right there.
You got that right.
Now, what are you hearing from Jason Light, though? Where's Tampa Bay looking at to try and fill a hole now? Because you don't know what Gronk's going to do yet, right? And you've got holes on the offensive line. Yep. What's Tampa Bay looking to do in the first round?
Well, again, I was there for the entire press conference. He's not going to tell you anything. He always says the same thing. We could move up. We could move down. You can never get enough good players. I heard a report today they may go for a top wide receiver. And, you look at it, you're like, oh, my God, they got Gronk. No, they don't Gronk. They have Evans, and they have Mike Evans, and now they got Russell Gage. But when you go through a whole season, and remember, it's also 17 games now. That's one extra game. Bucks are going to play the first ever regular season game in Germany. Throw in that travel. And injuries happen. And so Brady needs weapons. I would most likely think you would go either offensive line or defense up front or defensive secondary. But now, lately, I'm starting to hear that at number 27, they actually could go for a wide receiver. So I don't, they keep saying we go for the best player available. Well, I really don't know what to tell you.
Any chance they'd look tight in there? Look at the kid.
Well, what if Rock Riley is the G?
You know what?
Trey McBride.
That is a really good possibility. Cameron Brate is older. He's solid, but O.J. Howard turned out to be, the guy was built like a brick, and just never really materialized. I know he had the Achilles, but I talked to him after that. He goes, my Achilles is 100%. That's not a problem at all. And we don't know about Gronk. We really don't know. Now, head coach Bruce Arians told me that he is working out 3 times a week at the Bucs facility. Now, that was as of 2.5 weeks ago. So he's staying in football shape. I don't think he would go anywhere other than where Tom Brady is, but he also has so many other interests, and he's got a big draft party in Las Vegas. I don't know if you saw that. He's got so much stuff going on. And also last year it was a couple of broken ribs. It was a punctured lung. He ended up coming back. He's still very he's good and he puts up the numbers, but he's beat up. So I'm thinking, did you guys see that viral video that was at the barbershop in Tampa? I don't know if you saw that. And he was walking out and he's telling these guys, he goes to like this barbershop, like $10 haircut, he's not, a fancy place or anything like that. And somebody was there with a phone and he was walking out and he's like, I'm going to make Tom wait. Tom made me wait a couple of years. I'm going to make him wait. See you, fellas. So everybody's like, oh, he's just making him wait. So I don't know what to believe. So you're right. And they use that. Brady likes checkdowns. He likes to use his tight ends. So I wouldn't be surprised if they went for a tight end.
Okay. All right. Very good. Is it going to be edge, first 3 picks, Rock?
It could be. I would say, Hutchinson, Walker, Ickey, that big offensive tackle for NC State. Does he go 3? Does he go higher there? But no, I like I said, I think the edge. I think it's so important.
I've got a little sniff on Aquanu to be the number 1 pick just because it's Jacksonville and they could do something absolutely unexpected like that. So I've got him at plus 550 to be the number 1 pick. I don't think it's going to happen, but you know what? It's a decent price. We'll take a spin on Jacksonville doing something weird.
No doubt about that. Although everybody likes Peterson, they said he has brought stability into that organization up there because we all know, oh my God, was that not a mess or what?
I don't know how they still have a franchise there. I don't know how that team is in London or somewhere else, but God bless them. They're
Isn't the general manager fighting with the owner on the number 1 pick? Like, I can't believe the owner. I know he's got to maybe sign off, but he shouldn't be sitting in there, right?
Well, and you're plugged in with these guys. The part I find hard to believe is that gets out. I mean, I'm sure those confrontations go on a lot behind closed doors. I can't believe the public ever found out about it.
I'm so surprised at times where I've seen it. I'm like, how? It all depends. It all depends. There's sometimes a lot more to it. There was a female reporter a couple of years ago, right before the pandemic, and we're at One Buck Place during draft night. And here she is before every Bucks pick. Boom, she had it. I mean, she had it and I'm like, how are you getting this? Now, she's a hard worker, but she's also very attractive. So that means there's somebody in that building.
Like you, Chris.
Somebody in that building that just wants her and is giving that information. And then if the organization finds out that we got a snitch leaking that stuff, but a lot of times, for whatever reason, there are leaks within the building. And I'm with you, Scott. That blows me away because these jobs are so hard to get in these organizations.
It's hard to see any upside. Why they would actually do that? I don't know what the upside of leaking is. I don't know. Maybe if she's very attractive, who knows? Anyway, that's.
Don't open up that can of worms, Steve.
Well, I don't want to go. This is the wrong decade for that, my friends. But
right. No doubt about it. No doubt about it. She is a very hard worker.
How many quarterbacks go in the first round? They bumped the total. It was 2.5 for most of the time. It basically the last couple of days has gone to 3.5. Any shot it goes over 3.5?
I think this is totally me. Being at the NFL owners meetings in Poo Poo Palm Beach, where I don't know if any of you guys have ever been to Palm Beach, Florida.
Well, They kicked me. I was there for about 30 seconds. They kicked me out and said I didn't have enough money.
Yeah. I think there's more money there than Hollywood. And we were at this owners meet. They have a party. And we were figuring how much money is in here, a couple of $1 trillion. But they start having a few cocktails. And it's the only time of year where reporters are partying with owners and GMs and head coaches, and everybody's having a good time and just moving around and seeing people that I know and them introducing me. Every team now, especially, is like, you got to have a quarterback. If you got a guy that's like, oh, it's okay, it's not good enough. And I think everybody is trying to find that guy. They're willing to take another guy. You never know. He could be a diamond in the rough. I mean, so I think it could be 4. I could be, Willis and Pickett and Desmond Ritter. I was talking to Chris Sims. He's with Pro Football Talk in Florio, but he really studies it. He likes Ritter. Corral's a possibility. Maybe even somehow, maybe even Carson Strong, the kid from Nevada. So just me personally, I think you may get 4. You might.
Yeah, I think there's going to be a run, or not necessarily a panic, but nobody wants to let that quarterback get away. Nobody
Yes.
wants to be sitting there 3 years from now going, because everybody does that. You play that first round game. Well, we could have had this guy. We passed up on this guy. Nobody wants that player to be a quarterback, man. That is a fireable offense in today's NFL.
And I can tell you this.
The trade
one
off
of
to
the-
that is then you get the guys that draft Josh Rosen
Chosen Rosen.
because you
No,
trade a
you're-
quarterback.
Right.
Yes. But I can tell you from at this owners meeting that one of the owners of the Bucks just talking to us saying, we now realize like they had a Josh Freeman and Jameis Winston. I know Jameis has got some talent and all this stuff. And once Brady came in, they realized that, wow, if you can get – now, listen, he's the GOAT. I get it. But what a difference. It just changed. The offensive line prior to that was known as not being very good, same guys, and all of a sudden you got four Pro Bowlers on the offensive line. Defense, it makes everybody better when you have a really, really, really good quarterback. More now than ever.
Right. I mean, if you look at the quarterbacks in the last few Super Bowls, you've got Burrow, you've got Brady, you've got Mahomes. I guess Jimmy Garoppolo might be the exception, but he had a pretty nice season there for the Niners when they went to the Super Bowl against the Chiefs, right?
Right. Look at what's his name has done for the Buffalo Bills, right?
All right. Yeah, Josh Allen. That's a team that if they can get past the AFC, if they can get past the Bengals, they can get past the Chiefs. That's a team that could do some damage in the Super Bowl. No question about it. Very
And
good.
who would be ever talking about the Bengals with Burrow? You know,
Right.
you have him there. So that's what I'm saying. You might. I just think you're going to see more quarterbacks go higher than you think.
Yeah, you see all these quote unquote draft experts saying, well, I've got second round grades on all these guys. None of these guys are first round picks. Well, I don't care what Mel Kiper says, or, when those teams, when the rubber hits the road and they got to make that pick, and you see a quarterback with some potential talent, with some potential upside sitting there, I don't think you can pass. I really don't.
Right. And especially with the situation, like I say, 17 games, long season. If you go into the playoffs, you know what I mean? You're going to, most guys are going to go down. So,
yep, absolutely correct. Chris, what else you got for Rock? Anything?
Rocky, what do you make of the receiving group? Are we going to see a whole run of receivers in the top, probably half of the first round? I mean, everybody's talking about Jameson Williams shooting up the boards. I know Scott's disappointed because a couple of weeks ago, people thought he was going to fall in the second half of the first round. Now it sounds like he's going to go in the top 12. Is he going to go before, say, Garrett Wilson and Chris Olave and who's the other guy I'm thinking of here?
The kid from USC.
Yes, he could. I don't really have. He's talented. He's gonna do some damage when he gets on an NFL field.
Who's your favorite? If you're picking a wide receiver, who's your pick there? Drake London, who I was trying to think of the USC. Who's your pick there?
I like him. I like Olave.
Yep.
I don't know. There's something about him. I really like him. There's a couple of good wide receivers in there. Garrett Wilson, I like him too.
Right.
So I am just telling you, I mean, being at practices and watch, and when we're allowed to watch the rookies, like they usually have a rookie camp before they have all rookies. And it used to be like you would go to practice. I'm talking about the last 15 years that I've been at every practices. And you see the rookie and then their heads are spinning. You know what I mean?
Right.
And now you see them and you're like, how fast they're moving. They're like, how is it? I guess it's all the study. They're just better equipped, man. It's just amazing to watch the talent level. And not only that, like the moment isn't that big. It used to be like, oh my God, the speed is so much and this and that. And you talk to these kids coming out of some of these programs, they're playing in these huge games in front of hundreds of thousands of fans, and the speed. And it's amazing. It really, really is amazing.
Yeah, you always used to hear that the hardest jump to make was from college to the pros, and now everybody says it's from high school to college.
Exactly.
They're playing in pro style offenses in college, both on the offensive and defensive side of the ball.
Yes.
And the adjustment, other than the terminology, is probably not as steep as it once was.
Right. And the other thing is too, like there's there's a couple of these places where they have these trainers here in Tampa Bay. His name is Yo Murphy. He played a little bit in the NFL Europe, this and that. And I've done some interviews and stories over at his complex. And he had, I think, last year, 8 out of the top 20 in the first round, and something like 17 or 18 that were drafted. And these kids, the amount of training, they all have nutritionists. I mean, they are so fine-tuned and ready to go. That's where it all comes into play, man. And sometimes they have 2 or 3 different agents. You know what I mean? Somebody's working on this. Somebody's working on this deal. You know? It's incredible.
All right. Very good. Chris, final thoughts?
I'm interested in seeing what Rock thought of Matt Araiza, who they call the punt god. I mean, you talk about a guy that can flip the field for you. If you have a bad offense, Jacksonville should draft him first overall.
No, I mean, you know what? It's an important part of the game. Everything is. You know, it used to be if you drafted a kicker in the second round or third round, it's ridiculous. Special teams is big. Arians puts an emphasis on special teams. So I know he's incredible. I just don't know how. The thing is, when you are a general manager, your gig, your job depends on who you brought in. And if you go with a kicker or a punter fairly high and he doesn't work out, it's hard to erase that stigma. They'll always bring that back to you. You know what I mean? So it takes a lot of cojones to do that.
Yeah, they'll forgive you for picking a bad quarterback, but you pick a bad punter. You pick a bad punter in the first or second, man. That's on your tombstone right there.
Right.
I don't know. Did the Chiefs ever forgive when they drafted Todd Blackledge?
Oh, sure. Yeah, I mean, eventually we got over it. It took about 30 years, but yeah, I'll tell you what, we've never gotten over trading for Lynn Elliott. That's the one that we've never been able to get past as Chiefs fans when he blew the game against Indianapolis there. So,
oh my God,
that's a whole nother 2-hour show. All the disappointment. Well, Rock, I know you got a lot to do. It's coming down to it. And don't forget, everybody, if you're in Vegas, this is your last day to bet on the draft. If you're flying to Vegas and you think you're going to get off the plane tomorrow morning and make a bunch of bets on the draft, you're not going to do that. So just a heads up, if you're headed to Vegas to bet the draft, you better be doing it today.
Good tip.
Rock, we appreciate it as always. It's very, very nice to meet you. I know I've enjoyed.
Yeah, why don't you tell everybody where they can find you too, Rock?
My social media is at Real Rock Riley on Twitter and on Instagram, and Rock Riley on Facebook. And I also have a couple of podcasts. One on Joe Bucks Fan, 24 hours before every Buccaneer game, Bucks kickoff, and also The Rock Stops Here, where I interview those that have made it to the top in sports, mostly in sports, entertainment. And there you go. So The Rock Stops Here and at Real Rock Riley. And I had a great time. Thanks, guys.
Absolutely. Thanks for doing it.
Rock. We appreciate it.
Have a great draft. I hope everything goes well for you. And we will have you on again when everything calms down here and talk some more.
My pleasure.
All right. Take care, man.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks, Rock.
There he goes, everybody. Rock Riley. Sorry you didn't get to ask him one last wrestling question, Scott or Chris.
That's all right. I'm sure he'll be back again. And, I mean, he could probably do an entire show about professional wrestling. He knows more about it probably than I do, and I've followed it for quite a while.
Very good. Chris, you got any personal plays on the draft? Any final thoughts on the draft before we get on to the meat and potatoes of our show?
I'm still sticking with Sauce Gardner as a top overall corner. I mean, I know, like Rich was telling us yesterday, that there's a lot of smoke about Stingley, but just because there's smoke doesn't mean there's fire.
No, and you got to wonder how many.
I didn't see enough. I didn't see enough
too.
from Stingley the last couple of years at the college level to bump him up. 2, 3 years ago when Burrow was there, he was great, but he barely played the last 2 seasons.
Yep, he's been injured, and when he was in there, he wasn't all that. He certainly wasn't dominating like he was as a freshman. So, hey, we haven't even.
And I also think Breece Hall is going to be the top running back.
Yeah, I do too.
I'm sticking to that too.
I agree with that. We didn't take any of our housekeeping stuff because we just pretty much went right into the show. So as always, guys, don't forget to like and subscribe to our show here. Don't forget to follow us on Twitter. You can get him at Betting Royalty. You can get me at Steamroller. And of course, don't forget to check out a couple of cool deals we got going with our partners over there. Number one at DraftKings, special for baseball, and it's coming down to it. Only goes through the 1st of May. So any $5 money line bet, if you win it, you get $200 worth of free bets over there at DraftKings. Of course, the promo code and the link are in the show description. What's that promo code, Chris?
I actually don't have it in front of me because
right.
I haven't.
Good chat.
I haven't pulled up the banner.
All right, there you go. And of course, we are also.
It's this one, isn't it?
There you go. That is the one for DraftKings right there. WAW video, winners and whiners video, and you got to put that in there. And there you go. So $200 free bets. And Chris, what are we doing with? What are we partnering up with Caesars? What's going on there, bud?
Oh well, I believe with Caesars, that's the $1,100 on first bet insurance. Where what do you have to put? Is it $10 you have to put in?
Yep, got to deposit a minimum of $10, bet a minimum of $10, up to $1,100. So if you don't have to bet $1,100.
Right.
You do have to,
but you can get it back in the form of a bet
back.
if you lose. If you win, you win, and if you lose, you basically get a free bet out of it.
Yeah, just to be clear, you're not betting $10, get $1,100 back. You get back,
right.
You get back whatever you bet. So if you do want to make a big play,
if you could,
if you want to step in and fund that account, see how the other half live, and bet $1,000 on a game, this is your opportunity to do it. Then you can go back to betting $20 to $50 like you usually do. But if you wanted to step up and have a free guaranteed bet with the bet insurance from Caesars, that is the way to do it. Of course, there is a promo code for Caesars. Chris, you got that handy?
Let me double check here.
All right, good chat, Chris.
Because I'm trying to, it's ATS wins and then CZR.
Yep, CZR, and I believe CZR is their stock code, if I'm not mistaken, right? Is that their stock symbol?
Yes.
Okay, very good. I know because I watch it go down all the time. Well, I had it. It was fine. I got a bunch of shares.
That's because you stopped betting, so it went down.
I got a bunch of shares when I worked at Harris. So, and then of course that all converted to Caesar stock. So I do watch my Caesar stock quite a bit, and it's been fine. I'm just kidding. So, it's like gamblers. It doesn't matter how much you've won, you're always going to bitch about how you're losing. So if you're playing the stock market, you're always going to bitch about how you're down. So, all right, buddy. So
we've got Be Happy said the Lions need to draft an owner. I don't know if there's any of those available in the draft, but I'm sure Detroit Lenny could tell you who might be available for that particular realm.
We should have Lenny on after the draft to let him have an outlet to vent about all the players he hates that the Lions took.
And AJS, I think that the Bills will probably go corner. If Andrew Booth is there, I imagine they'll target him because unless they trade up, they're not going to get anywhere near a guy like Gardner. And I think Brandon Beane won't touch Derek Stingley. Maybe Trent McDuffie. But watch out because if all those guys are off the board and Beane doesn't trade out, I wouldn't be surprised if Breece Hall, if he's on the board, if they would go that route to give them another versatile running back because as good as Devin Singletary has been the last couple of years, I don't know if he's going to be a clear-cut feature back at this point. He was good down the stretch, but, with his size, he's not really a prototypical three-down back.
Yep, I liked him a lot. I really expected him to make that next step, and he just hasn't quite done it yet. By the way, somebody roasting us for calling the show just parlays and talking NFL draft for 20 minutes. Good God. Well, first of all, if you put more than one draft bet together, you know what they call that, Chris?
A parlay.
It's a parlay. That's right. So you can put your draft parlay, you can put your draft picks, your draft bets together with other draft bets. You can play them together in parlays. But secondly, we think it's an interesting piece of information. It's the day before the draft. It's not like you're on here every day talking wrestling and drafting punters. So
no. Unfortunately, I'm not. It'd be interesting.
I know that would be your ideal show, but unfortunately, that's not the way it works. So, Chris,
no, that's true.
We
try to keep it entertaining. We try to keep it informative. So that's why we cover all this other stuff.
Yeah,
we get people that know.
If you're literally on the day before the draft and you're like, why aren't you guys talking about the draft? Well, you know what? That's on us. So we're going to talk about the draft. Spoiler alert. If you watch our other show, if you watch my other show, that I do with Scott Reichel. You know what we're going to be talking about today? We're going to be talking about the draft. So
really? Oh, man. Well, I know not to tune in.
Just a little heads up. So, Chris, we've got about 20 minutes left. And then in that 20 minutes, you know what we're going to have? Just parlays. Just fucking parlays. That's what we're having right now, baby. So, you want to get her rolling?
First, you want to talk about the Royals yesterday? Because I know you were excited.
Oh, that's right. I did tell you before the show that I was going to give you props and roast myself for not believing in young Daniel Lynch, the fireballing left-hander of the Kansas City Royals, who gave up just 2 hits over 6 innings and looked absolutely unhittable against Dallas Keuchel, who was none of those things. He was the exact opposite of all those things. He was not a fireballing left-hander. He was not competent. He did not give up just 2 hits.
He's a left-hander. That's about it.
He's a left-hander. That's pretty much where the comparison stops right there. So the Royals were able to not just beat the White Sox, but shut them out. And in a move that should come as a surprise to no one, Alberto Mondesi is now injured. So,
I didn't hear about that, but that's, like you said, that's not too much of a surprise.
Tweaks his knee, going to be out till at least probably the weekend, and that to me, anytime you say he was going to be out 2 or 3 days, that's August. So.
And AJ says he's going to take Greinke under on the strikeouts, and you were talking about that yesterday, Scott. His velocity seems to be gone. He has 2 whiffs this season going into today's start against Dylan Cease and the White Sox. What's up with that? What's he throwing? Is he topping out in the 80s or something?
Yeah, he's topping out about 90, 91 on his fastball. He's become the crafty veteran. He's pitching to contact. So far, he's been able to get it done. I'm always worried about guys that are pitching to contact, because that means that obviously they're hitting the ball and they're not striking out. And his whiff rate is just dreadful. Like you said, he's got 2 Ks on the year. One of those came opening day. So I would say he's not fooling anybody. He's still making good pitches. They're still not hitting the ball that well when they make contact. We'll see if that continues. I don't know what his strikeout prop would be. I'm going to guess 3.5, 4.5, something like that.
Well, he's got 1 so far.
He's got 1 so far today. That's his second of the season, right?
No, it's his 3rd of the year.
Oh, do you have 2 coming in?
Yeah, he had 2 coming in.
I like that. If that prop is where I think it is, if it's somewhere in the 3.5, 4.5 neighborhood, I think that's a fantastic play, AJ. Absolutely.
Yeah, 3 walks and 2 strikeouts coming in 16 innings.
Yeah. Okay. There you go.
They're down 1-0 as they just gave up a sacrifice fly in the bottom of the second.
1 strikeout every 8 innings. That's outstanding. That's what you want. And he's our number 1 starter, by the way.
Yeah, that's definitely just a change from what you're used to seeing from him.
Yes, absolutely.
I mean, I think Reichel could probably strike out a guy every 8 innings.
He always says shit like that. I could score off of that guy. No, you couldn't. It's like a couple years ago when they had the thing going around about all the guys out there saying that they could return Serena Williams serve. No, you couldn't.
Oh yeah.
No, you couldn't. You just couldn't. So, all right, buddy. How about some 2 for the shows and 4 to get ready and all of that stuff? What do you say here?
And free donuts.
Free donuts. Donuts.
On 2 for the money, I'm going to go with the Dodgers. I know they let us down yesterday. They scored 3 in the first and then thought the game was over and didn't score the rest of the way. That's kind of like Reichel's dating life. But, Julio Urias pitching today against Zach Gallen. Interesting stats about this. I look for the under to hit there, too, just as an aside, because Urias has, I believe it's an 0.86 ERA in 21 innings at Chase Field. Gallen has pitched well against the Dodgers, which is weird, because he doesn't pitch well against anybody else. But I still think Los Angeles, their lineup is just a wee bit better than the Diamondbacks. And, Urias won, 20, 21 games last year.
The only 20 games.
The Dodgers should bounce back from that one.
Okay.
What's that?
All right. I said he was the only 20-game winner in the majors, right?
Yeah.
I believe that's true. Yeah. That's
so do you have any thoughts about the Dodgers Diamondbacks, Scott? Anything you want to add?
I like a lot of these young pitchers, And of course, if I'm not mistaken, Gallen was another one of these guys that came from Miami. That was another part.
You are correct.
We talked about that yesterday. How that Miami team is kind of I don't know what it is about the teams in Florida, but Tampa Bay and Miami just seem to reproduce great young pitchers. Gallen's been very, very good this year. You talk about him against the Dodgers, but he's actually pitched against the Mets twice this year. Not exactly an offensive juggernaut, I understand that, but in 9 innings, he's given up just 4 hits, 1 earned. Yeah, I'm okay if you want to put the Dodgers in there with a parlay. Obviously, this team's too good to go through any kind of a losing streak, but they could struggle. I do like the under there. I do like that under. I think especially under first 5. If you wanted to play that, you want to play a Nerfy, you're probably laying some pretty good juice there. But I think it's going to be a pitcher's duel at least early, and then perhaps the Dodgers can get to the Arizona bullpen late in the game. I'm okay.
Yeah, and then we've got the NBA hardwood. We got the Bucks taking on the Bulls in Game 5 at the Fiserv Forum. In case you didn't know, Alex Caruso ruled out. He's in the concussion protocol. Zach LaVine is in the health and safety protocols. It's got to give the Bulls a snowball's chance in hell of even covering the line in this game after seeing what they did in Games 3 and 4.
Well, I think the only way they'd get a cover is if you'd see something similar that you saw in the Atlanta game last night, where they just kind of take their foot off the gas in the fourth quarter. Maybe they get Giannis out of there if they've got an 18, 20 point lead with 6-8 minutes left. I could see him not quite clearing the bench, but certainly getting their stars out of there and giving them a break. And I worry about a little bit of a backdoor cover. So what I do like is I like that the defense of Milwaukee to absolutely handcuff the Chicago Bulls without LaVine for sure. That's they just don't have enough.
Then you're relying on DeRozan and Vucevic.
Right. And which they can certainly each go for 25, and you still only not get to 100. So you need LaVine.
I was going to say they might get to 70 then.
Yeah, that's about right. So yeah, I think I like the Bucks in that spot. I do worry a little bit about a backdoor cover, but I like the Bucks. I like the Chicago Bulls team total under. I probably like the game to go under as well as far as the total goes. You got a thought on the total there, buddy?
Yeah, I've actually got it in the shot in the dark. I think it's going to go under as well. I think all 4 games in this series have stayed under the number.
Yep.
So I don't expect anything to change, especially without LaVine, like you said, because he's such a key contributor on the offensive end. Caruso's a good defender. He's not really a big offensive player, but without both of them, I mean, they're going to suck on both ends of the floor.
Well, you saw the Lakers this year. You saw what a difference not having Caruso made to that defense, where they were consistently top 5 defense last season, and this year that the defense just absolutely fell off the cliff for the Lakers. I'm not saying that's
they were a sieve.
All about Caruso, but you certainly see the value that he brings to that team.
Yeah.
I had something that was right at the forefront. It's gone from my old man brain. So carry on. Hopefully I'll think of it.
I saw. I was going to go with the Rangers.
I was going to say the Bucks have averaged 96.5 points in the 4 games. They've only gone over 100 one time. So yeah, I like.
There you go.
Go ahead, buddy.
Yeah, the Rangers over the Canadians. Montreal, they've been dead since Halloween. We've talked about that all season long. Montreal, everybody talked about how great it was. They made a Stanley Cup Finals run last week. It was a Cinderella run. Well, the clock struck midnight early for the Canadians this season. That's why they're the worst team in the league, and it's not going to get any better tonight. I know Alexander Georgiev starting for the Rangers, but they're playing at Madison Square Garden, and this, that still means something to the Rangers. Montreal couldn't care less. They just want to get to the golf course as quick as possible, or the poutine stand, whatever is better for them, But in the end, the Rangers are going to roll them over. And I'm going to stick with the Brewers over the Pirates. That was a high-scoring game between those teams last night, 12-8. Who expected Milwaukee to score 12 runs? That's the week's worth of work for them so far this season.
Yeah, and not to mention Pittsburgh putting up 8. That's 2 teams that you don't generally think are going to be put up 20 in a single game. So yeah, absolutely right.
But so I'm going to go with the Brewers there. And it looks like Bronco said he's got the Dodgers, the Yankees, and the Angels in a parlay, which I think is a pretty good one. You got Jordan Montgomery going against the Orioles, who I believe are throwing Jordan Lyles. who we all know sucks.
Oh, we made some money with Jordan Lyles as a Texas Ranger.
You make money on Jordan Lyles now. He's pitching for Baltimore.
Yep, that's a beautiful thing. I've got to be able to fade him. Got to be able to fade Jordan Lyles.
And he's got, and then Bronco also has the Angels with Ohtani on the mound as they take on Zach Plesac and the Guardians. And the Guardians have scored 1 run in the first 2 games.
I was going to say there's another under that I like. Plesac has looked good for the most part this season. Ohtani kind of has an ERA that's not necessarily indicative of how well he's pitched. So if you just look at his stats, you're like, well, Ohtani not that good, but he's had 2 outstanding outings, especially his last one, and 1 bad one there at the beginning of the season. So, yeah, I wanted when I looked at that game, I wanted to come up with a reason to take the Guardians with Plesac on the mound.
Couldn't find one.
I think he's kind of underrated, but other than Plesac on the mound, I couldn't find anything to like about this Guardians team. They are. We talked about it when Scott and I did our preview at the beginning of the season. That's going to be a dead under team all year to me. They can't hit and they have good pitching.
Yeah,
so we
I
always
agree
have
with
some Guardians in there. Are you playing the run line there with the Angels, Bronco?
Yeah, I think that with seeing that Cleveland scored 1 run in the first 2 games, I can't really put a ton of faith in them here.
Right.
And plus, there's still a little plus. There's a plus sign in front of that run line, so that's always a good thing.
Hey, Chris, AJ wants to know, and we'll go back to it here after we promised we do just parlays. We lied. You're a Bills fan. I don't care who the Bills take. I couldn't give a flying fuck, but I know you're wearing the hat and everything. Who do you want the Bills to take, buddy?
Well, like I said, I think they'll go corner if there's a good one available. I know that Beans talked about both either trading up or back, so he's not necessarily rooted at staying at 25. Personally, I'd like to see him trade up to get somebody like Gardner, but I don't think they're going to get that high up the board unless you give up something of value. Unless the Giants are dumb, because Joe Shane was the assistant GM in Buffalo before he took the Giants job, so maybe we can work something out there. Otherwise, I'm probably looking at Andrew Booth or Trent McDuffie, the corner from Clemson and Washington, respectively. But don't sleep on Breece Hall.
Okay. All right. Very good. Oh, you're going to get sucked into that first round running back trap. Oh, buddy. No.
Yep, but you got to remember, if you look, Bean has drafted a quarterback that nobody thought should have gone in the top 10. He drafted Ed Oliver, who was 6'1", 287 as a defensive tackle. He took Russo in the first round last year. Brandon Bean doesn't give a crap what people think about draft boards and everything else.
Fair enough. All right, and he's earned.
I mean, I'm not necessarily. I understand the hype about not picking a back, but I think that Hall is a guy who can actually play all 3 downs, which is valuable. Especially in that offense where he can be a good pass receiving threat.
Okay. All right.
Because, I mean, Singletary, he caught 40 balls or something last year. I mean, imagine that going to a guy who's a little bit bigger and who can also, burrow inside in between the tackles, which is something Singletary can't really do as well.
Yep.
Because at 5'7", 203, I mean, how much in between the tackle running are you going to do?
Not much. Hopefully not.
And that's what Singletary is.
Yep. Absolutely correct. All right. So
I'm going to take the Pods over. Yeah, I'm going to take the Pods over the Reds. Mackenzie Gore, he beat the Reds last week at Petco. Vladimir Gutierrez has looked absolutely horrible for the Reds. I don't know if you've seen his numbers.
Yeah,
he's got as many walks as strikeouts. He's hit 4 guys. His earned run no Bronco. Doug Whaley took EJ Manuel. Now Doug Whaley is he in the XFL or the USFL or he's in one of those other leagues because Buffalo fired him a long time ago. Bean came over in 2017 with Sean McDermott.
Okay. All right.
But so what do you make of the Reds, Scott?
Not much. I make this as a they were never going to be a contender before the season started, but they have been so decimated by injuries. They're missing half their infield. They're missing two of their 5 starters. They're missing their closer. It's a team that started bad and it has gone off the cliff as they were just 3-14 on the season. And you're right about Gutierrez. He has not been competitive in any of his 3 starts at all. I got to load up on San Diego there. I think getting them at -160 is a bargain.
And then we've got on the NBA hardwood, you got the Warriors back at the Chase Center as they try to close out the Nuggets. We just talked about the Bulls. Do you give the Nuggets a snowball's chance in hell to force a Game 6?
You know what? I didn't give them a snowball's chance in hell the other night, and they took care of business. Of course, they were at home, and Rachel and I talked about a scenario where the Nuggets could win a game, and I thought it would be the first game back in Denver where you've got the adjustment to the altitude. But the fact that they stole a game in the end, it really didn't completely surprise me. Although the way this Golden State team, I really expected them to sweep. I think the Nuggets have won all the games they're going to win, especially Golden State moving back home. Now, as far as the spread goes, that gets a little tricky, Scott or Chris. That's two. I think the 8.5. I think that 8.5 is a pretty solid number. I don't generally like to tease NBA games. I would consider playing a 4-point tease on that game and knocking it down to 4.5. You? That number scary at all?
I mean, if you look at the first 3 games of the series, it doesn't really faze me all that much because, Denver can't stop anybody. I did read today that when Shams Charania was on the Pat McAfee show, Curry could be back in the starting lineup tonight, which definitely is a plus because then you don't have to worry about him coming off the bench, which means he'll get more minutes. But if you look in the games, even Denver won the other day, but they gave 121 points.
Right.
They didn't cover in the first 2 games at Golden State. They lost by 16 and by 20.
Right.
So I'm going to think the Warriors are probably going to win by double digits. I just don't know what Denver has left.
Okay. I would also be interested in playing team total over on Golden State somewhere in the 116 neighborhood. I wouldn't be afraid of that play either. Like you said, they have the Denver defense has been basically non-existent as they've scored 118 or better in all 3 of those games. And
they're averaging 122 in the series.
Yep, that's exactly right. So yeah, I wouldn't shy away from the team total over either as far as Golden State goes. But I think they probably get it done here. I'm just more conservative, so I'm a little afraid of that 8.5. But I think there's a very good chance they cover that number. Like you said, they covered big numbers in the first 2, and shouldn't be afraid of this one. So
yeah, and then the Kings over the Kraken. We don't need to talk about that. Seattle's a bad hockey team. The Kings are going to the playoffs. Everybody's excited because finally somebody from the Crypto.com arena is going to play in the postseason at home.
Excellent. Now, do you worry at all about teams just kind of coasting through the end of the season that have made the playoffs there in the world of hockey?
Sometimes I do. I mean, we saw it last night where Minnesota lost to Arizona when they were going off at they were almost a minus 600 favorite on the money line. I stayed away from that game personally.
Right.
But you're talking about a Seattle team that's an expansion team. The Kings are just happy to be here at this point. They had to win 4 in a row to clinch a playoff spot. I think that they're going to stay focused, obviously, because, they're going to have to face Edmonton in the opening round. And anybody that has watched hockey for a couple of minutes knows about Leon Draisaitl and Connor McDavid and all that. So the Kings want to stay sharp. I get the fact they want to maybe try to coast, but they're not a team that's good enough that can afford to do that at this point.
Okay. They can't. They don't have the switch. They don't have the on-off switch.
If they turn it off, they might as well just go straight to the golf course.
All right, fair enough. All right, bud. What else you got? Anything?
Yeah, here's the big mess. Got Houston over the Rangers. I'm going to take Christian Javier over Glenn Otto. I know everybody's like, ooh, but it's Glenn Otto. So what? The Marlins, like you said, we talked about them yesterday with their pitching. It's going to be, I believe it's Pablo Lopez taking the mound against Eric Fetty.
It is. I like that. I like that play too.
I'm going to go with the Twins over the Tigers. Joe Ryan's looked good in his few starts. Michael Pineda getting the start for Detroit. That just shows the Tigers are desperate for pitching. This is a weird one because the Mariners are an underdog on the road against Tampa Bay. It's going to be Marco Gonzalez, who I know struggled against the Royals over the weekend,
right?
Thanks to bad fielding. Drew Rasmussen going for the Rays. I just think Seattle, they've played well. Tampa Bay's been too up and down for me to rely on.
Rasmussen
I look for the Bulls and the Bucks. Yeah, I look for the Bulls and the Bucks stay under 217.5. We talked about that. Like you said, the Bulls have gone over 96 once in the series.
Okay.
And I don't think the Bucks are going to score 125 to drag them there. I look for Denver Golden State to go over. I don't know what you've got on that total yourself. Seeing that they've gone over in all 4 games.
Yep. So nobody can play it.
By the same
that defense
token,
witness.
Yeah, by the same token, Tim Earle's not here, so I can tell you that Jokic is probably going to go under 50.5 combined points, rebounds, and assists. If you look in the 2 games at Golden State, he put up numbers that were in the low 40s all combined compared to the ridiculous numbers he put up in Denver. Guess that means he's not going to get the calls at Golden State that he probably got in the Mile High City because all the officials were high, or Scott Foster was there. Then on the ice, I'm going to take Vegas over Chicago. Vegas needs to win in order to keep their flickering playoff hopes alive. They're 4 points back of Dallas with 2 games to go. They have to win their last 2. Dallas has to lose their last 2. And then they'll get in on the ever-popular tiebreaker of regulation wins. Because, of course, that's the first tiebreaker in the National Hockey League.
Sure.
In a panel of teams going nowhere, we're going to take the Winnipeg Jets over the Philadelphia Flyers. The Flyers, of course, were eliminated sometime before Christmas. Winnipeg was eliminated a week or so ago. And finally, the Arizona Coyotes, who we like to call the Arizona Cactus because all they do is stand there and do nothing. They won last night. They're going to go to Dallas. I think I was going to stay under the total. The Stars play very good defensive hockey on home ice. Arizona can't score to save their lives most of the time. The reason why they hung 5 last night is because Minnesota, is an offensive team and is allergic to defense. But recent games for Dallas, 3-2 in a shootout, 3-2. They had a 2-1 game against the Sharks, a 3-2 game against the Wild, a 1-0 game against the Lightning. So they've been keeping the totals under the number. Arizona's not going to help them any here offensively. Harry Sateri getting the start for the Coyotes in net, not to be confused with Harry Carey or anybody else.
All right. Very good. All right, guys, there it is. A couple of deuces, a 4-teamer, and a little 10-team shot in the dark for you to mix and match as you see fit. Chris, had a lot of fun.
Yep, Jim calls it the Chinese menu.
Very nice. Very nice. Or the also the menu at
Applebee's?
Cheesecake Factory. Cheesecake Factory.
Cheesecake Factory, yeah.
Yeah. So there you go. Hey, that's going to do it for the show, guys. We do wish you best of luck on all your plays. Hope you enjoyed seeing a little bit of draft insight the last couple of days. We'll be back to grinding just parlays tomorrow, Chris. So we'll probably talk a little bit about the draft, but it'll be back to just parlays. And if you want to tune into just jacking around, stay tuned here in about 5 minutes. My partner Scott and I are going to be doing our show back to the window. So as always, thanks for stopping by. Don't forget to like, subscribe, share us on social media. We don't care. We're sluts. Get us out there. Share us with everybody. Pass us around. Do your thing. Guys, have a great day. Let's hit some parlays, and we'll be back to talk about it tomorrow. All right? You guys take care. Have a great day. We'll see you in a little while.